Well, I did something. I'm not sure what to think about it so far. I don't know. What I did, probably gonna leave me broke. And that's because I just bought a Jeep. Yeah. So the other day, I had bought myself a Jeep. 1998 Jeep ZJ. Also known as the Grand Cherokee, for those who aren't familiar with it. And I'll give you guys a bit of a walk around of it. And maybe a little bit of a startup, show you how she runs. And the backstory on how I got this thing. $500. Yeah, that's it. 500 bucks. So, let's go take a walk around of this Jeep. Alright, so let's start with the front of it. As you can see, it is your typical stock Jeep ZJ. No lift, no modifications. It's got a ding there. It's got a ding there. As for the dings, that's pretty much it. A little fender bender there. Some tape I gotta clean off. And overall, it's in good shape. Except no rear axles. Well, the tube is there, but there's no axle, no differential, none of that stuff. The guts, they're gone. I don't know if you can see under here, but I took the ring gear and spiders, the whole carrier out. They are currently sitting in the back of the car. I'll post some pictures in here as to what's destroyed on it, but I'll give you the gist of it. I'm going to take this to the shop on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. But these bearings are shot. In fact, so much there is none left on the driver's side bearing. Yes, I have the races marked as to which goes where, and the shims. Don't need to worry about that. That's taken care of. But other than that, I don't know, 40-50 bucks to get this thing fixed. Give a full walk around, show you the shape she's in on the outside. There's what's left of the bearings. Yeah. So, she's in pretty good shape. One of the nice things I like about these, I think 96 to 98, the model, had a flip, I think Jeep called it a flipper glass. It obviously needs new struts on it. The mess that's in here, well, it's mostly parts. And the kids' car seats, because I got 4 tires on the back seat of our car. But it's a lot of parts buried under here, everything labeled in Ziploc bags. Open up the hatch. Also needs new struts on it. Not terrible, hard to change either. I think those pins just pop right out actually. Or use a stick. But go around to the passenger side. This thing's got very minimal rust on it. I did pull the side skirting off. It's kind of starting to rust a little, but oh, no big deal. I can always pull this off. I can spray foam it and then fiberglass pack it with Bondo, or that fiberglass resin and body filler combo. But it's not terrible. And then put the side skirting back on after a coat of bed liner. This mirror, it is cracked, but no big deal. This thing sat under a pine tree for 4 years of its life. Washed it up, got most of the stuff off, but still a little bit that needs to be taken care of. Might do a video on that, following one of Chris Fix's ways to do it. Open up the door. Got the floor mats out, obviously. I'm going to shampoo the floors, shampoo the seats, clean them all up nicely. But not a single tear in the seats. Things not been smoked in that I can find any evidence of, at least. Door seals are all good. No, they're not torn, not ripped. A couple of small nicks. I don't even know if this thing is legally platable yet. It may or may not need a Saskatchewan government safety. That's the SGI local insurance company out here. I don't know what their regulations are on vehicles that have sat unregistered for X amount of years. But from what I could find at this, the only thing she needs is rear drum brakes for the parking shoes. These do actually move, surprisingly. I was pulling on the cable and I was able to get these to move, so I think if I just put new park brake shoes on there, it'll be good. But it's getting a whole new, all new guts, probably a new bearing and a seal here, just to be safe. That's just so I can hit the brake pedal without popping the caliper out all the way on the piston. It's on the front. Driver's seat, immaculate shape, like no rips, no tears. Same with the passenger seat. Little spring-loaded storage pocket there. We will pop the hood, take a little peek-see there, and we'll get inside and kind of show you the rest of the interior. This is the engine bay. Never really done much to it other than vacuumed out all the leaves and gave it a quick hose down. Didn't do a detail or nothing on it. Had a Optima red top that I threw in here. It's just a second battery from my motorhome. Got the charger on her. She is stating power, no charge. Oh. Let's readjust my clamps so this thing can actually charge. Just because it's not being driven. Here. The Genius Noco G1100 charger. That's a couple amp trickle charger on it. Extension cord hidden under the hood. Let's grab the coffee cup. Go inside. So interior wise, the window, if it'll focus, there's a stone chip there, got a stone chip there, and a nice little crack that runs down from here and goes up. I don't know if that would fail in SGI. I'm pretty sure our regulations are your chips cannot extend from one edge of a window to another in any way. So I've got a stone chip and it cracked a little like here. No big deal. But I don't think they allow an edge to edge crack. So worst case, window cost me 150, 200 bucks. Not a terrible deal. Turn on the ignition. This, unfortunately, key does not stay in the ignition, but it's not worn on enough that you can start it without the key. So, turn this on. This thing has 315,722 kilometers on it. 410K on this supposed tank of gas. I don't know if that is accurate or not, because like I said, it's sat for 4 years, but it does have a half a tank of 4-year-old fuel. Dashboard, not even cracked. This thing sat facing south for 4 years, in the direction it is facing now. The sun comes up there, all across the sky, and sets. Beating down on this thing for 4 years, dash has not cracked. Armrest, well, whatever. That's, I think, from elbows digging on it. To me, it looks like an elbow kind of sat there with a hand on the wheel. That's what that looks like to me. But let's roll down the window. 3 of the 4 doors power window works. Tinted glass all in the back. This window does nothing. But neither does the power lock, the window, or the speaker. I think a connector is disconnected in there, or the cable is broken. But let's fire this thing up, and here she runs on 4-year-old fuel. A little bit of hesitation when I first stomp on the gas hard. But, like I said, that's probably fuel. Little rattle inside. And that's an exhaust mount is loose. So that's kind of a whatever. It does go through all the gears. My foot is on the brake. And I have it locked in 4-wheel drive part-time so that neither drive shafts will spin. So let's shut this thing down. So this one has the Selec-Trac 4-wheel drive system. So that means it's got the, turn a light on. So that means it's got 2-wheel drive, it's got 4-wheel drive part-time, 4-wheel drive full-time, and 4-wheel drive low. Now what this means is I can drive this thing in 2-wheel drive, obviously, or year-round, basically 2-wheel drive for the summer, spring, summer, fall. Winter time I can throw it into 4-wheel drive full-time, and it basically leaves the differential, or not the differential, the transfer case unlocked. Basically it acts like there's another differential in the system, allowing the front tires and the rear tires to get power separately where seen fit. Essentially, it acts like a full-time all-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive part-time is just that, part-time. When you're off-road, climbing hills, trudging through deep snow, mud, very bad gravel roads in the winter, whatever the case need, when you need your front axle and your rear axle to be locked together to get equal amounts of power, you got the 4-wheel drive for that. And then same thing with your 4-low. The nice thing about this is it's 4-wheel drive. I can throw this transfer case into neutral, being the fact that it's a gear driven transfer case. It disconnects all power from the transmission to the rest of the drivetrain, and I can throw this on a tow bar behind that big old pig, and I can flat tow it around with me. So that's kind of nice. So anyways, the story on how I got this Jeep and how I got it for so cheap is, is there even enough light to see me clearly? Possibly. I've got a neighbor who lives about 4 houses down from me, 4 or 5 houses. And this thing I've seen sat in his driveway for 4 years. I don't know how long it's sat prior to that. It's just for the amount of time that I've been at the house that I'm at currently, it has sat for 4 years that I have seen. And the story behind it is his mom bought this Jeep brand new off the lot in 1998. Drove it up until 5 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, something like that. 2013, basically. In 2013, this gentleman bought this Jeep off of his mom and drove it, he said, for about a year until the rear end blew out on it. He called some shops, and the mechanic shops told him that it's going to cost him around $2,000 to repair it. That's the cost of getting a new rear axle for it and the labor to swap it in. Now that might seem a little unreasonable or a little high for some of you guys. Unfortunately, here in Saskatchewan, a lot of mechanic shops here have to go by government regulated salvage yards. Sounds like a ripoff, kind of is, but it also allows for the shops to cover their own butts and have warranty. So what that means is, in Saskatchewan, the only insurance agency we have for auto dealers is SGI, Saskatchewan Government Insurance. So we have to get used parts, if we're looking for used parts, from any SGI accredited salvage yard. Meaning the salvage yard also has to be regulated by SGI. So we've got several around in this location, close to the Saskatoon area where I am. There is Affiliated Auto Wrecking. There is Amigos Auto Wrecking. There is Bucks Auto Salvage. And then, of course, the SGI Auto Salvage lot themselves, with over 3,000 vehicles, 4,000 vehicles they have alone. Yeah, a lot of vehicles in their lot. And the cheapest axle that I could find from a SGI salvage accredited wreckers was about $450, ranging upwards to $800. So depending on what shop decides to get what parts from where, after labor, you're looking around $2,000. So he said it's not worth it, and he's not mechanically inclined at all. And he just figured that if he was to hire a do-it-yourself mechanic off of Kijiji or Craigslist, he was afraid that he might get screwed over. So this thing sat and sat and sat. So about 1 year into seeing it sitting, I knocked on his door and asked him, "How much do you want for this thing?" He told me he wanted $2,000. I basically said, "You're crazy," and I walked away. About another year goes by, and I knock on his door seeing it still sitting there. Struck up a conversation, asking him, what his plans are and what he's, considering doing with this thing. He said, well, as it sits right now, he still wants to sell it. So I said, well, what do you want for it? He said, I would take $1,500. I said, that's a little bit pricey, a little bit too much in my pocketbook, but if you ever come down lower, maybe I'll consider it. He never asked me what I was going to offer him, and in all honesty, he probably would have been offended with my offer. At that time, I was thinking of paying him anywhere between $300 to $700 for it. I knew it ran, I knew the drivetrain was good, and I knew the rear end was blown up. So, up to $700, I'd be willing to pay at that time. Another year goes on, and I ask him, and he's at $1,000. I said, well, he said, that's a little high. And at that time, he asked me, what would you pay? Told him the highest I would go would be $700. He said, that's too low for him. He said, okay, well, if it's still sitting here in another year, I'll come knock on your door and see what you're willing to do. So today is Sunday. Friday night, so 2 nights ago, I knocked on his door, said, hey, it's still sitting there. Is it up for sale? Have your plans changed with it? What's going on? And he said, nope, still sitting, still broken, and it is for sale. He told me what his price was. He said he wanted $800 for it. And I kind of hummed and hawed and said, well, the fact that it's now sat for 4 years that I have seen, he didn't go into any more detail, but according to the former registration in this, it was last registered in November of 2013. Kind of corresponds to when he said it blew up in the winter. So, I would say 2013, late year, so let's call it 2014, 4 years. I told him, sitting 4 years, there's probably a lot more that is now going to need to be replaced on this thing than just a rear end. I said, now I'm looking at possible oil seals on the oil pan, the valve cover, going through every little nook and cranny, and cleaning up all the seals and gaskets, making sure they're not leaking, this and that. He kind of hummed and hawed, and he said, well, you know what? If you come back tonight with $500 cash, it's yours. Yeah, okay, I'll think about it. If I come back on your door tonight before 10 p.m., it'll be because I have $500 cash. So, came home, discussed about it, and I didn't have $500 cash on me. So that was kind of a, I could save up $800 and buy it from him. But I decided to call Bank of Mom. Called my mom, stopped over, visited her a little bit, and basically told her the scenario and asked her if I could borrow $500. And I don't know if they were reluctant or not to loan me the $500. There's $500 vehicle. What could be else wrong with it? Are you going to get burnt with it? That kind of stuff. Typical parental concernness, let's call it. Eventually, it was, we can borrow you the money as long as you can pay it back. Set out some payment plans with them, and went out and picked up the Jeep. So, Saturday, or Friday night, I gave him the money. He gave me the keys and the bill of sale. And then Saturday morning, I went over with my air compressor. I'll shoot a little clip probably near the end of this video, or at the end of it. Just kind of a couple small things that I shot with when I first got it home. But basically, I filled up the 2 tires with some air, which didn't hold long. I think they held from 50 pounds per tire, maybe 2 minutes. Basically gave me enough time to fill 1 tire, then I filled the other tire to 50 pounds, and by the time I was done that, the 1 tire was down at like 20. So it was filled up the air in the tires, popped a battery in it, cranked her over, and it fired up. It turned over 4 or 5 times at the most before it came to life. Threw it into 4-wheel drive and drove it home. 4 houses. That's about, the average lot width-wise is about 30 to 40 feet. So give or take 200 feet of driving, roughly. And that whole 200 feet, you could just feel this entire rear end just banging and hopping, and that's because obviously the bearing on the cage or on the carrier is completely shot, so it was kind of pulling away from the pinion gear and pushing back with every movement. About every 5 feet it would jump. So I was prepared to end up tearing this whole thing apart and throwing in a $100 axle. I found another salvage yard through private use, not through the shop. I'm able to buy an axle for $100, whole assembly, throw it in. And then basically do the same thing. Throw new bearings in it, new seals for the wheel bearings. Probably still pull out the ring and pinion and take a look at them to make sure they're good. But turns out when I pulled this carrier out, all I really need to do is press off the old bearings or the old bearing on the one side and the old race on the other. Punch on a couple of new bearings, probably OEM from the dealer. I'm looking at $20 a piece. If I go OEM, I have the best chance of not having to really set up the gears too much. Setting up the backlash isn't too hard. I can buy a shim kit. But if I go OEM bearings, I should be able to throw the old shims in there for the most part. Still check my backlash, obviously. Check the carrier preload, the pinion preload. But I'm not changing the pinion bearing. That's not coming out at all. It's not leaking, the seal's fine, and the bearing is not loose. So that's staying. So I don't really have to worry about getting a new crush sleeve, a new seal, a new bearing for that at all. So at best case scenario, I'm going to have a running and driving Jeep for the price of purchasing it for $500, on top of maybe $50 to get it on the road again. So that's not too bad. Worst case scenario, I have to go buy a $100 axle. And then find somebody who's got a truck and doesn't mind a rear end being loaded into the box of their truck, tie strapped down, and hauled to my place. And then spend probably 3 weekends swapping it out. I've really only got Saturdays to do it, minimal tools, and my driveway being at such a sharp slope it is, can't really lift the Jeep up too high. I got wheel trucks under it, I got it locked in park and 4-wheel drive. I doubt it would roll. I could probably do it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable. So if I could get a new bearing in there, in the worst case, I get a new bearing in there, I press it on, it gets me enough to drive it to the shop. I can drive it to the shop, I can park it there, and then I can get a new axle delivered or purchased from the salvage yard. I go out on a Saturday and I rip it off, and then I borrow a buddy's truck or pay him a few bucks to haul it for me, and we drop it off at the at the back of the shop. Go in Monday morning, drag the axle in, and then come in on a day off on a Saturday and get the vehicle up on a hoist and start ripping the rear end out. Not too bad of a deal at all either. But then I have to be prepared to be buying new control arm bolts, new bushings for the control arms, in case they are severely seized. So the rust isn't terrible on here, but it's also not great. So there's the risk that I have to buy new control arm bushings and bolts and all that, and possibly fuel lines, and am I going to get it out of the shop in time? On top of it, I gotta get somebody else there at the shop with me. We can't just have one person in the shop by themselves on a day off due to liability reasons. So then that comes to getting one of my coworkers to come with me. Now, one of my coworkers I've known him my whole life, and I think if I said, hey, on a Saturday, do you want to come to the shop for beer, pizza, and twist some wrenches? He might not. I know it's the same thing with me. I like to spend my Saturdays with my family. So the other option is I've got another coworker, but he's been new. He's only been there a month and a half now. I don't have a key to the shop to open up, neither does this kid. So I don't know if my boss would be trusting enough to allow the two of us to be in the shop by ourselves. I've been there 7 or 8 months now. He does like me. He might trust me enough. I hope. But anyways, so best case, it's going to cost me 50 bucks to throw this thing back on the road. Worst case, 100 to 200 bucks because I got to supply beer, pizza, and possibly a few bucks for the help. Yeah. But that is the story on how I got this Jeep for such dirt cheap. And if I can do this stuff in my driveway by myself, we'll definitely shoot some videos of it. Maybe throw a little bit more video content up on this channel. I know I've been kind of lack and not really been posting much, and again, that's, I've been busy with work. I like to spend my Saturdays with my family, and this channel is mostly an automotive related channel. Well, when I'm spending Saturdays not twisting wrenches or doing anything really auto related, I don't really want to film it, if that makes sense. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you want to see more videos, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I guarantee you'll definitely be seeing more videos of this Jeep. I definitely got a lot of plans for it. I want to put a 2-inch budget boost on this thing, and that's basically coil spacers all the way around. It's coil springs in the rear and coils up front. Some 31-inch tires, custom off-road bumper up front, custom off-road bumper in the rear, a light bar, a winch. This thing's not going to be extremely off-road capable. It's going to be modified to handle some light trails, and just to kind of suit me. I like a little bit of a lifted vehicle. I like one that looks off-road ready. It's mostly going to be a mall crawler, and see a few trails here and there. But maybe throw a locker in the rear. In fact, I don't know if maybe I want to do that soon. Maybe when I press on these bearings and stuff, if this whole thing runs and drives good, I might order a lunchbox locker or a Lockrite locker, maybe even a Grizzly. One of those three. Basically, it's just an auto-locking, ratcheting locker in the rear. Replaces the spider gears with. And, I know they're fairly inexpensive. Wouldn't be such a bad thing to get a locker put onto this thing. Especially when you're getting 2-3 feet of snow in a year. Kind of helps out. So anyways, enough rambling and babbling. If you want to see more, please hit subscribe. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you later. Here she is. Looks like the tire's taking some air. That's good. Well, here she is. Picked her up, drove her home. I had to throw it into 4-wheel drive as the rear end is blown up on it. Rear tires do not hold air, but there are like 2 brand new tires sitting inside. The 4-liter inline 6. I'm gonna chalk up the front wheels here, and then rip up the back end. See what's going on. Well, I think those bearings are shot.
We all could taste our dreams, but I can never fall asleep. 'Cause my heart won't quiet down, and I need you to keep the beat. 'Cause I can't believe where we are now. Taking oath to stay young, I break it every day. Said I won't fall in love, I want you in the worst way. I can't get tough if you don't leave. I'm sleeping everywhere, but calling nowhere home. Collecting goodbyes and things I wish I had known. It's not where we thought we'd be, but we're doing pretty good for 23. We're doing pretty good for 23. I don't wanna fall asleep. 'Cause what if the world comes falling down in the morning when I leave? So just hold me for right now. Took an oath to stay young, I break it every day. Said I won't fall in love, I want you, I want you. Can't get tough if you don't bleed. I'm sleeping everywhere, but calling nowhere home. Collecting goodbyes and things I wish I had known. It's not where we thought we'd be, but we're doing pretty good for 23. Doing pretty good for 23. If you take away the end, every new start comes up